morning. Look at this. We've got sunshine coming in through the window over there. It's absolutely beautiful day today. I'm feeling much more sort of upbeat today, I would say. I think there's nothing like a bit of sunshine to give you a bit of va-va-voom in your life. It was very dull and dreary last week with all the rain that we've been having. And it's that kind of post-Christmas thing, isn't it? You don't quite know what you're doing. So I'm just delighted to be back here in the studio with you again. It's lovely, and a very warm welcome to you. I hope you've had a good week. I think we had a good time last week. I enjoyed the embellishing and I hope you did too. Thank you for all your wonderful comments, and we're going to find out today what's going to happen next. I'm going to do some stitching. I've had a little bit of a fiddle with the piece I was making last week, and I've just tweaked it a little bit. There was just little bits when I'd finished. I just kind of was looking at it and feeling what I wanted to, how I wanted it to look, you know, which is what I always say. It's not so much what you see, it's what you feel about it, I think, or perhaps it's a combination. When you look at it and you think, oh yes, that's just what I want to. Oh, more DIY happening today. And do you know what? That's really weird. The sun. I've never had that before. That's really weird. I'm now not in the sun at all. Hello, I'm still here. That's really weird. I've never had the sunshine do that before. Perhaps I'll have to sit like this or something. It's because it's a low winter sun, so it's kind of just, it's just dropped down behind the roof. We've got a building over there where our donkeys kind of stay when the weather's bad. And yeah, the sun's just dropped down behind it. There's a tree as well. It's really pretty. There's a beautiful black tree that I look out at. I'm very lucky. I live here in beautiful Cumbria. If you don't know Cumbria, it's the Lake District here in the UK, up in the north of England, and it's very beautiful. There's lots of trees and fells. What we call the mountains are called fells around here, the hills, and yeah, we live on a little small holding. There's always lots to do here, I have to say. I'm not just in my studio all the time. There are lots of other things to do as well. I've just got my garlic arrived this morning. I've got to get that planted up this week. And you know, it's a juxtaposition of things that my husband's about to start cutting his willow, because he grows willow, and a local basket maker takes quite a lot of that for some of the things he does. He does river work, but he also does willow work, and so he takes some of that from my husband and buys it from him. So it's like a little small holding. We don't have a lot of animals, and we don't have a lot of anything, but we've just got a bit of land, and my husband's done a lot of work on the land actually over the last few years, trying to improve how we graze it with the donkeys, so that we've got a lot of wildflowers, which is just absolutely wonderful to have in the summertime. There's nothing prettier than seeing the donkeys out romping around the fields, and the fields are just full of wildflowers. So, but we're not at that stage yet. We're still in the middle of winter. I know it's only January, but as I say, I'm feeling a bit more upbeat today because the sun is shining and it's a bit brighter. And I'm here back in my studio with you, and that is just absolutely wonderful. It's so lovely to be here with you. So I think what we're going to do today, we're going to get on with some stitching, and we'll start to pull this piece together and see where it's going to take us. So I'm going to pop over to my sewing machine. Actually, no, I'll show you where it is first. I'll show you the fiddly bits that I've fiddled with again. Very technical. Do a lot of fiddling in this place. A lot of fiddling and faffing, and then we'll get on to some stitching. The free machine embroidery is always fun to do. Okay, so here we go. This is what it looks like now. What I've done actually is I added some extra little strips of the same sort of fabric. I just kind of doubled up what I had going on. I felt as though the actual single strip of fabric was nice, but it was a bit like you could see the pattern on it. So I thought, well, if I add some extra little strips, it breaks it up, it knocks it back, and it makes it look, you know, so if I was to add that on, for example, and embellish it, you know, you get a different effect. You get little bits extra added on. I mean, you could even be mixing up the different patterns, I suppose, but I didn't do that. I just kept it quite simple again, and I'm liking it. It also gave a bit more sort of texture to it. I put a bit more of the black stuff on there, and the black stuff's in the middle, and we've got edges, and you can see I've got edges all over the edges. We've got sticky outy bits. That one's even embellished itself underneath. It's not supposed to do that. So now the next thing is we're going to need some of this, which is tearaway stabilizer. Because obviously, to those of you who know about free machine embroidery, if I put that under the machine, it'll just get a bit scrunched up if I don't put this on the back. This needs to go on the back, and then that's like a stiffener which stops it being eaten by the machine. So I'm going to pin this on. Now, as per usual, I have to think now about my edges. So I'm just going to pin that on for a moment while I have a little think about my edges. You know, do we turn them all under like that, or do we just keep them rough? And I'm not quite sure at the moment. The jury is out. Are we going to turn the edges in? I think we're going to turn the edges in. I'm not quite sure why. I might have to trim this back a little bit. I'm just going to trim the... Let's just see if I can do this. I'm just going to trim this back a little fraction because it's a little bit big. What happens when you embellish, obviously the fabric you start out with gets a little bit kind of scrunched up. So you lose a bit of size on it. Oh, and if you want to know what size this is, I was going to get a tape measure. Just bear with. Let's find a tape measure. Here we go. Much clunking in the corner. Okay, so here's the tape measure. I'm going to show you how big it is, as I meant to do this last week. So that's about 9.5 inches, which is what in centimetres? About 24 centimetres. 9.5 inches by 6. So that is about 15 centimetres by 24. There we go. So now you know. You saw it here first. Right. Okay, so we're going to turn it back over. Now we're going to turn these edges over. And I'm going to start with like one end, like this. And we're just going to fidget them together. And then we'll start stitching from the top downwards. And I don't mind if there's a little bit sticking out. It's not meant to be a pristine edge. I just feel they're a bit delicate, these fabrics, and I think they need a bit of support while we're stitching and stuff. Let's see where that's going. There we go. So we'll just pin this nicely and then we'll get stitching. Okay, so I've just picked out a few different coloured threads here that I think may or may not go into the mix. I've got sort of a brown and a black, and I think, oh no, that's a dark grey, sorry, that's a dark grey and a black and a brown, which I think go quite nicely. There's also these sort of little colours which kind of sort of pick up some of these sort of pinky tones that I've got going on down here, possibly. And also, I've also put into the mix, because I'm not sure if I'll use them, but I thought I'd try, possibly. It's all about possibilities. I've got 2 thicker threads, which I might have a go at using on my machine and see what we can do with that. I fancy some texture on this, so we'll see how we get on. But we'll start, I think, simply with some black and see what that does, okay? So I'm all set up here for free machine embroidery, and if you're not sure how to go about doing that, just have a look in my playlist under beginners, and there's a little film there that kind of shows you how to get going. So here we go. I've all set up, black thread, which obviously won't show up hugely to start with. I'll try and show you on a bit where you're going to see it. Let's see if we can get you in a bit closer to that. Just move my pin cushion into a better place. So I'm going to use this black thread all over the piece to hold everything down. And as I work from the top downwards, when I get to the bottom, I will eventually turn these in, but I'm just leaving them out for the moment because I don't want anything to get too tight across the fabric. So you can see what I'm doing. It's just basically wiggly waggly lines, which if I just come down and stop for a second, and then I'll show you the back. And you can see better what I'm actually doing. There we go, that's what I'm doing. And I'm just going to go up and down all over the piece and do that for now. See what happens. And then we'll be able to judge whether or not we want to do other then we'll be able to judge whether or not we want to do other things with it. So I'm going to get on with that now, and I'll show you a bit further down the track what I'm doing. Okay, so this is my top edge that I've stitched, and now we're going to come down to the bottom edge as well. I'm kind of trying to do a bit of an edge which is a bit fudged so that it's neat by turning the top bits over, but I'm going to fiddle around with it and add little bits extra bits on, so that we get kind of a rough edge as well as a smooth edge. That doesn't make any sense. I'll show you it properly when I've finished, okay? So let's get my sewing machine turned on. I'll do some more wiggling and waggling. Okay, so this is taken off the sewing machine now. Let's show you the back. You can see I've tucked all those raw edges in, and then what I've done, I don't know if you can see close enough to see, I don't know whether you can see this, but I've actually got different little snippets of fabric, as though I've taken, I don't know, a little bit, it's as though I've taken a little snippets like this and then just added them on top. And you can see actually when you start to do that, you start to build up different patterns, different layers, and you get some nice sort of rough edges going on as well. And I've done that so that I've got smooth edges, if you like, because I've turned them in, but then I've added more bits of fabric on top because I really fancied having, for once, having my rough wild edges, which I do enjoy on a piece. I really do, and I know a lot of you do too. So you'll have to let me know whether you prefer a smooth edge or a rough edge. You'll have to let me know in the comments. So this is where we've got to, and I was thinking whether I wanted to add in, just see if I can find, for example, you could be adding in maybe some hand stitching. That's possibly a bit too bright and shiny, but you know, you could be adding some different hand stitching into it. I was also wondering whether I was going to stitch, I think I mentioned this, with some of this slightly thicker thread, which I don't know. I feel as though it's almost like it's stitched enough now. I don't want to make it over busy as a surface, and I think that's probably stitched enough for now. So we're going to find out next week. Let me know which way you think it's going to go. You know, what are we going to do with this piece? Oh, that looks quite nice like that. Actually make a lovely sort of tubey piece like that. You let me know in the comments below what you think we could be doing with this. It's a lovely little piece at the moment, and I think it's got some potential to become something quite interesting. Obviously it can just be you know, something in its own right. I know that's not the right size actually. Let's get me you know, although obviously I've turned the edges in, but you could imagine, you know, that being displayed and framed just like that. And you could be adding things in. You could be, I don't know, you could stitch random things onto it. I'm trying to think what else you could put onto it. You could be adding natural objects of some kind onto it. I don't know. Let's have a little look. Not something like that. That's a leaf, but I don't know. I just have this feeling you could be adding. You could actually add other things onto it and turn it into something, you know, like that. Or if you've got bits of rusty metal, you could be adding bits of rusty metal onto it. There's lots of things we could be doing with it. So anyway, I think that's probably enough for today. I hope you've enjoyed the journey so far, and as I say, we'll find out more next week when we've mulled it over a little bit and had some thinking time. I like to sit with these pieces for a while because it allows ideas a chance to mull up. If you think, oh, I've got to get this thing done, it doesn't allow space and capacity for something new to come up, something you hadn't thought of. I mean, I hadn't originally thought about adding extra bits of fabric on, but I really like it. I've added extra bits of the dark embroidery, the black stuff, in here and there, and I really like that. It's broken up the surface quite nicely. So I will see you again in my studio next week. Thank you so much for joining me here again. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Hit the bell, and then you'll get notification when I actually upload the videos, in case there's a bit of a gap or something like that. And let's just enjoy January. I'm afraid the sunshine's gone in now and it's actually raining again. But you know what? I enjoyed the sun while it was out. And I will see you all again in my studio next time. Bye for now.